Hi everyone, it is Kimber, the study abroad specialist, and in today's video, we're going to be discussing the value of taking a gap year either during or after college. So this video is a follow-up to the video that I did a couple weeks ago where I was talking specifically about high school students and taking gap years. I know that that is something that has become more and more popular. It's really been popular a lot of other places like Europe and the UK and parts of Asia and parts of Africa, but a lot of American students have just kind of caught on to it in these past maybe 5 or 10 years. A lot of celebrities have done gap years recently. And so I know that particularly coming out of everything that we've all been through in 2020 and 2021, a lot of students, whether they're in high school or college or even higher, have sort of you've been through a lot. And so it's like you're sort of trying to reevaluate what your next steps are going to be and what that's going to look like for you. And a lot of your plans that you had before may be completely out the window and they have changed. And so I think moving forward in 2022, 2023 and beyond, that this may be something to really consider. So the first reason to consider taking a gap year either during or after college, I just want to specify that because typically if you're going to take a gap year during college, it means that you are going to, maybe do it, let's say in your junior year. And so you're going to take it in your junior year and then you would just, loop back around for your senior year. I sort of did this, but it wasn't, I guess it was a gap year, but I didn't think of it that way. But now looking back on it, it was because my junior year, I basically studied abroad my entire year. That's a little bit different. A lot of students usually go one semester or the other, but I studied abroad my entire junior year of college. And so that was sort of a gap year, but it didn't feel like a gap year because I was so busy. But you can either do it like that, or what a lot of students choose to do is they just choose to take a gap year or gap time off after they graduate. Now, taking time off after you graduate is not that uncommon. A lot of students do that, particularly if you are blessed to, maybe have some savings or maybe your parents are still supporting you. That is, kind of normal. People are, just getting started. They're still, getting their feet wet. They're still trying to figure out everything. They may or may not have a job lined up. And so they're still trying to take time. Most people take 3 to 6 months off. That's not uncommon. But for a lot of people, I think nowadays, just thinking about it, maybe the year is a perfect amount of time. And the first reason why that's going to be is because it's going to give you a chance to reset yourself. Now, we know, obviously, as I have said, and that we all know, is that, you've been through so much these past 24 months in particular, but just in general, like making a transition, anytime you make a big transition, it's a big deal. And so if you think back to when you were graduating high school or secondary school, if you're not in the US, and what that felt like to go into uni or to university or to college and how that felt like such a big step because it was, you were sort of stepping into your first iteration of adulthood. And so it felt very scary. It felt very overwhelming. Well, the next step that you take into sort of like real adulthood where you actually have to start paying bills and being responsible for other things, that is a huge step. And I think that a lot of times we don't give ourselves enough time to digest it. I know I talked about this in another video where it's like, particularly in the Western culture, so not just here in America, but in the West in particular, we're just always busy, busy, busy. I know that there's a TikTok or a reel or something going around right now about, like, I'm just so busy, I'm busy, busy. And that's like a perfect example of how we typically act, of like, everything's just so busy and I've got busy schedule and I've got all these things working on, and all this stuff is happening. And it's like, that can be true for a certain extent. Like, yeah, we are typically all busy. We all have busy lives, but like you need to sort of like step back and actually reflect on what happened. Number one, because it's, like the sort of steps that you have made are going to leave you some clues about what not to do in the future, as well as what to do in the future, but also too, like, it's going to help to sort of shape what your path is forward. And I know that, it can be really intimidating to sort of think about that. Like, well, what am I going to do for a year off? Well, this is going to be a great time to maybe pursue something that you're really interested in. So maybe during that time, let's say you've been really passionate about certain mission, or there's a certain organization that maybe you were volunteering with, during your high school or your college years, and you continue that. Maybe this is a time where you can really dive deep into that. And I know that you're going to say, well, what about the money? Yes, I know that is true. You're definitely going to have to think about your financial situation. But if you are fortunate enough to be able to take some time off like that, even if it is 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, hopefully a year, then you're able to feel a little bit more comfortable with that. But this is going to give you a chance to actually do something that is a little bit more fulfilling outside of just money. Yes, we know that, people need to work, they need to make money, but if you're able to, let's say, collaborate with a charity or a cause that you really care about and do something that is meaningful, that is going to help you stand out in the future. So it's like, not only are you going to be making connections while you're there and building your network while you're there, you're also too going to have a story to tell. So in the future, when you go into job interviews, when you go into, let's say, if you're headed to grad school, if you're going into your grad school interview, or if you have to write a paper to get in or whatever it is, you actually have a story to tell. And it's going to be a different story than a lot of people, because a lot of people tend to do the same thing, not always in between the high school or secondary school and college. Again, as I was saying in other videos, particularly for Americans, we have a unique experience because in our country, everyone gets funneled to college right away. And a lot of other countries that does not happen. But most people, after they finish college, unless you're going to grad school, which is, a smaller amount of us that have done that right after. A lot of people, they go to grad school, but they may go later. Most people are looking for a job. And so it's like, that alone is going to set you apart from people. If you say, after I graduated college, I was really passionate about, let's say, kid hunger or something like that. And so I volunteered for the past year with this organization. Here's what I was working on. Here are the goals that I accomplished. And then you can translate that further on into how that relates to what you will do for the company. So it's all kind of related. But I think that, using that as a time to sort of step back and feel like what you really, think about what you really want to do is going to be very important. And I feel like if you can tie it into something that is very mission driven and very, sort of looking towards other people and not just towards yourself, like, oh, I just needed time off and every single day I just slept in and, then just got on YouTube and just hung out and, ate bonbons all day. That is not going to be as impressive when someone asks you what you did on your gap year. But I feel like if you can sort of show, all the effort you were putting into, something that is very mission driven, that's going to be a great way to sell yourself in the future. So definitely consider that for the first point of why you should take a gap year, either during or after college. So the second reason why you should consider taking a gap year, either during or after college, is to better map out your plans. Now, I know that I can definitely speak to this, even though I did not take a gap year after college. I was going straight to grad school. However, I do understand the fact of, particularly now, kind of what you're going through is similar to what people my age went through, as millennials, where we were basically kids of the Great Recession, right? And so a lot of our plans that, we would have had back then of, I'm going to come out and I'm going to go work for this place and, I have it lined up, or, even if you don't have it lined up, like you had this, sort of sense in your head of where you were going to go intern or where you were going to go do something. A lot of that sort of faded down the sea, right? It went down the drain because companies were closing left and right. People were in disarray. There's much more competition for jobs, and, a lot of it wasn't well paying. We are sort of at that mark again in a lot of ways. Unfortunately, it is not at recession level yet. I know that some people say that it is, but it's not at the Great Recession level. And so, but it's pretty bad out there, not just here in America, just around the world because of everything that's happened, right? And so you're sort of probably facing that same situation where, maybe let's say back in the good old days of 2018, 2019, maybe you were a sophomore in college at that time. So right now you'd probably be a senior, or maybe you've already taken some time off, but you were sort of thinking through of, like, this is what I'm planning to do. Maybe you had a great internship somewhere. Maybe you had some ideas of having some other internships or apprenticeships or whatever lined up. Maybe you had a great job that you were doing part-time and you're like, this is what I want to do. And now reality has sort of hit you in the face, like it's hit all of us. And you realize that what you had expected to do is no longer either available, maybe it's not available in your area, or maybe that industry is completely gutted right now. Maybe they're restructuring and you don't know what you're going to do. Because most people's ideal, and I feel very blessed that I've gotten lucky with this, is to work in whatever field that they have gotten their education in. Unfortunately, for most people, that does not happen. It really does not. And I think that sort of that reality of it can be very daunting to people. It can be very striking to people if you sort of realize, like, I've spent all this time, all of this money getting this degree, or maybe you have a double degree or whatever it is, and then now I can't find any work in my career path. That happens a lot. We know that particularly here in the US, like a large majority of people, whatever they studied in college, that is not where they're working in. I find that kind of sad. Like, I know that people have to do what they have to do, but it just seems like such a disconnect. It's like, well, you spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and, like, you are completely opposite of what you studied. And that's really unfortunate. It happens though. Or you end up like being a lawyer. I know that a lot of lawyers, it's like they go through all this work and then like they purposefully remove themselves from it. So it's like, yeah, I once was a lawyer, but now I'm an author, or I once was a lawyer, but now I'm, a broadcast journalist or whatever, which I think is so funny because there's so much effort that goes into that, but they realize like how draining it is. It takes a certain type of person, I think, to be a lawyer. But just kind of on that point, I think that one of the things to sort of think about is this is a chance to sort of map everything out. And I know that that can be really scary because you're actually going to have to face some things. But what I'm trying to say is that you need to sort of be very strategic with thinking about what your path is going to look like, particularly now if you are going to be entering the workforce, after 2022, after 2023, because even though things may improve, it doesn't necessarily turn around like that. And so you need to just be very strategic. So the third reason why you should consider taking a gap year, either during or after college, is if you really want to take some time to explore and travel. Now, I just want to put it out there that I know that this may not be accessible or realistic for everyone. I feel that perhaps it could be if, let's say, started saving in college and you knew that you really wanted to do it after college. That is definitely a reality. And so if you are in that situation right now where, maybe you're a sophomore in college, but you're thinking ahead and you want to figure out what you want to do after college, right after, that could still be a reality for you. And I know that people are coming from all different situations, but this is definitely going to be a great time to do it. I definitely feel that, that time right after college is, as we've said before, definitely like a huge turning point in the sense of you are like right here where you're sort of, you're definitely an adult in terms of like your age and all of that, but like you are sort of headed towards like having to make adult and real life decisions. But you still want to kind of be able to experience things. And of course, like you can travel at any age, but I feel like traveling and being able to sort of get out there and sort of see the world in a different way during that time after college is sort of really important. And so you sort of have to think about it, how it's going to be relevant to you. There are some people who, are very fortunate. They can, let's say travel around Europe and backpack and, whatever they want to do after college, or maybe they spend 6 or 7 months doing that. That may not look realistic for some people. Maybe you get to travel locally. So maybe you live in a state, I don't know, like Texas or something. And, throughout your time, like maybe you were just at school in Austin, but it's like, maybe you didn't even grow up there. Maybe you grew up in New York or something, but you moved to Texas and, you love it there and you went to college there, but you have not really gotten to see a lot outside of Austin. Like you spent your entire 4 years in Austin. This is your chance now to really be able to travel. So maybe you're going to take a road trip somewhere. Maybe you are going to, do a huge kind of jump around where you just do a lot of different city trips. There are all different ways to tackle this. And I feel that this is definitely something that, again, as I said, I know that it's not realistic for everyone, but if you are able to do it, again, it's another way to sort of build up some skill sets, because believe it or not, like traveling, even though you are there usually to have fun and have a good time, you definitely have to hone some skills. So you usually have to hone some type of, communication skills. You may, depending on where you're going, have to hone negotiation skills. You usually have to have planning skills because traveling takes a lot of work and planning. And it's very stressful, even if you're just going away for a few days. Sometimes I think we just do it to ourselves. Maybe that's just me, but you definitely can build up just some everyday life skills. Also, too, depending on where you're traveling, as I said, that I don't like using this term, but you build up street smarts in a way, because again, like depending on where you're going, maybe you're going to a place that is not always the safest place to be. You figure out different things, you learn how to interact with different types of people. So there are all different types of life skills that people learn during travel. And I feel that that time period right after college is great because you still are very kind of fresh in your thinking. You still have kind of come out with a lot of thoughts and opinions and ideas, but you are still kind of maybe not at the situation where you have to make too many adult decisions. And so, but you're sort of thinking about, what is my future going to look like? Maybe you get to travel around and say, well, actually, like I thought I wanted to move to the Northeast, but I don't really like it that much after traveling around here. Like, I think I might want to explore the West Coast or whatever it is. Or maybe if you're over in Europe, you move to London for a few months. If you move to London and you say you don't like it, don't come on this channel again. Just kidding. But actually, I'm not really kidding. But if you, let's say, are coming from France and you've been to London a lot of times, but you moved to London and you're like, actually, I don't like living in London, then we're going to switch places. Thank you. But you make that decision, then you're like, actually, I think I want to maybe move to a place that's a little bit colder all the time. So maybe I want to move to Switzerland or something like that. There are all different types of ways to sort of approach it, but that usually comes through travel and experiences through your travels. I think that a lot of people don't always connect the dots on that. Even if you are, not in college, for people that are not in college and you're just traveling, there's so much to be learned from that. And I think that maybe people think about it, but they don't always take advantage of that there's so much to be learned from that experience. And particularly doing that right after college, it just sort of, again, grounds you and sort of gives you another chance to sort of develop new life skills and sort of think intentionally about what your next steps are, what you like, what you don't like. You're still learning that. And so definitely, if you do have the chance to travel after you graduate college or even during, and you can take like that year off to do that, definitely take advantage of that and go out there, see the world, figure out more of what you like, what you don't like, so that you can make the best decisions for your life moving forward. All right. And so that is it for this week's video. I hope that it was helpful for you. If you have not subscribed to this channel yet, please go ahead and subscribe. I release videos every single Friday, most Fridays, and sometimes on Wednesdays now, and even sometimes on Mondays. I am just kind of putting out videos as much as I can because I want to get the information out there. As you know, summer 2022 is going to be huge for study abroad. People are really kicking it back off. And so I am so excited to be here within the YouTube community and sort of getting information out. If you have not also followed me over on Instagram, please do that. I'm also on Facebook and on Pinterest. So I've linked all that information below. Definitely follow me on those platforms as well for all of your study abroad tips, advice, everything you're going to need to know for a great semester away. So please go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Please go ahead and like this video, share this video with someone that you know. As I always say, you're probably getting tired of hearing it, but if you are a study abroad student or a prospective study abroad student, you probably have other friends, other people within your network that also want to study abroad. And so share this video with them so that we can get the information to everyone. And I will see you on the next one.